Mother, do you think they'll try to break my balls?
Well, good afternoon. This is Mr. Not Advice. This is weekend update for May 11th, 2025. Let's see here. A couple things I want to go over before we get to individual charts. The big indices failed to recover their 200-day moving averages, and I'm reading from Goldman Sachs head of hedge fund coverage, Tony Pasquariello, noted that the S&P is trading right now at the average level of the past 12 months. He makes the comment that one can argue we are working very hard to stay in place. I agree, by the way. And I've been saying that, but one of the things we want to be careful of, and we can go into the macro here shortly, but one of the things we want to be careful of is this is still very much a headline-driven market. So last month, the fund of flows and sentiment was terrible. This month, it's already much, much better. Here's what the bears are saying, quite frankly. They're looking at soft survey data, which is green. So those are the ISM manufacturing surveys or the manufacturing surveys. And hard data is actual economic data. And what the bears are saying is this red line will collapse to the green line, and that's what's going to cause the market to go down. I don't know yet. I think it's hard to tell. So, because you could also start seeing this survey data start rising back up too. So we don't know yet. Looking particularly at, interestingly, this was Goldman's internal poll of client sentiment, and 66% of respondents still identified as bearish, and only 19% identified as bullish. So you can take this, you know, interpretation one way, you know, bullish or bearish, right? They're overly bearish, they're or that the 66% are bearish are ahead of the game. But the market really bounced off the August low or the April lows, and I don't think the market sentiment has flipped yet. And I think a lot of that has to do with negative mainstream media coverage of Trump and his tariffs and all of that. So, all right, let's take a look. Also, when we look at, get this chart up here, 1 second. Looking at the market volatility also, we finally have realized volatility collapsing back to normal regular levels. So that shows that there's not a tremendous amount for the bearishes. There's still not a lot of fear, at least in terms from an IV or call to put option pricing. So whenever I talk to somebody and they talk about the rest of the world versus the U.S. and that the U.S. Is, global investors are going to take money from the U.S. and it's going to cause a downturn to, uh, not globally, but it's going to cause a long-term downturn um, for the U.S. economy and the U.S. country. Okay, so I don't believe that. I just and I stand by the fact that unfortunately for the rest of the world, the U.S. it's good to be king, right? Um, the U.S. is still the safest place to invest. The U.S. Um, is still the most independent country from a business standpoint, even with all the regulations we have. And this chart that I'm showing you right now is return on equity versus price to book. So the higher, the better, right? So when people say, oh, well, the US is overvalued, well, yeah, but you're also getting a completely outsized returns compared to China down here. Japan is way down there. Look what the European countries are, right? And so paying, do you pay up for quality? Absolutely. And so, I don't think there's going to be this huge rush for the doors, um, irregardless with the trade deals as they come, to fruition, of foreign assets. Where else are they going to go? Uh, seriously, where else are they going to go? So, anyway, let's get to the overall market. And looking at the overall market, we've got news over the weekend that uh, Russia has offered to meet next Thursday in Turkey face to face with Zelensky if he can wear his pants the correct way and stop snorting coke. Yeah, they have a picture. The reporters walked in on him, Sturmer, and Macron, and there's a looks like they're snorting coke. Which, I mean, are we shocked? Um, so looking at China news, also, I don't expect anything out of this summit. And you call it a summit, tariff summit. I expect China to use this to be able to now say, look, we went and talked to the imperialist Yankees, and they didn't want to talk at all. And so I this is still a very dangerous market. Okay, the market probably, well, it depends, but it looks as though the market will probably open up futures tonight up fairly good. I'm continuing to look into lighten up as we move up in the market. So until and unless we get over these big numbers here, that 580 level on the SPY, 200-day moving average also on the SPY, we need to get over. Um, so, but I am encouraged, but I don't think that anything substantial will come out of the China deal. I don't know. Maybe Trump would be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat, but ultimately, China is getting worse. It's very hard to find good news. I get most of mine off of Chinese expats or Hong Kong who have actual video that's been verified. And so it's very hard to get information. There have been my understanding is there have been some small demonstrations. I mean, in certain cities or provinces, but nothing huge or largely organized. The longer this goes on, the worse this is going to be for uh, China. So we also have the possibility that Trump had announced that Monday or Tuesday he had huge news. I'd originally thought it could be the Iran deal. Some members thought that we could also have the Abraham Accords, that Syria could be added to the Abraham Accords. Then I heard one that said that they thought it would be an announcement that Israel becomes the 51st state. Um, Not even funny. So I don't know what this big, huge announcement is. Now, generally speaking, at least for me, and I voted for him. I'm underwhelmed whenever he says, "Oh, I'm going to have this huge announcement." Whenever he makes an announcement, I'm like, you know, not that big. So again, any chance I get to take profits, I'm going to continue to do that until we break up through these levels. Looking at the QQQs or the Nasdaq market. Same thing, failed to close above the 200-day moving average. It is back above 20,000. And yeah, it does look like, this thing is coiling up to break out finally, but it needs to do it quickly. Okay. We can't keep dicking around up here. Uh, by the way, just so you all know, the announced buybacks were interesting in the last earnings reports hold on here. Microsoft kept their buybacks at 3.5 billion. Okay. Meta stepped it up to 13.4 billion versus zero last quarter. Google upped their program to 70 billion from 15. But here's the big one. Apple bought back 25 billion and authorized another 100 billion for the quarter. So we may want to be watching Apple stock if there's going to be that tailwind behind it. In fact, let's take a look at Apple stock. Yeah, I'm not really interested in Apple stock until we get above this 213, 214-ish level. Uh, and you know, remember how I trade? I don't try to predict price. I'm waiting. I want to see price commit, and then all I need to do is continue to move in trend direction for a period of time. So, looking at, we have a position in UPRO, which is the S&P 500 multiple. So we got in here, and we have already scaled once for plus 50%. I'm waiting to get another scale, hopefully a plus 100%, and that'll get me down to a runner. Tesla, great move, but paused out here at that 307 level. Um, Again, if the overall market turns down, it's going to drag Tesla back down. So it's still, as I said, it's still a very aggressive uh, trading environment, less aggressive than, let's say, 3 weeks ago. Fight Club's in a rubric trade, and I think they got in down here or something. They're doing fantastic on it. Looking at NVIDIA, there's the break level, 118.85. Depending on the overall market, I may move that up to 125-ish. And it depends on how this breaks. You know, we have the point of control here. We've got the 200-day moving average there. So, and we have this resistance area from here, here, down to here. So it all depends on the overall market and what style or what type of break this is. IBIT, which is our Bitcoin trade, we're raising our stop on IBIT to the low of Friday, which is 58.16. So remember, when you put these in, it doesn't matter if you put them for close or not. All that really matters is that it's at or below. It will trigger you during the day. I'll come back to EOSE. Dollar Tree still not able to close above this break level. I mean, it's been trying repeatedly, but it is. This is a very, very compressed wedge now. So, hey, beyond good news. Actually, I don't think it was good news, but um, the market took it as good news on the tokenization and T0. So, I have an alert here. This is a pretty big resistance level. Would I take a shot here? Sure. I have no problem taking a shot on a short-term trade. AI, we're raising our stop to the low of Friday. So we're raising it from 22.59 to 23.18. There we go. Stop is raised. Let's get to NVX. NVX, again, it's in a strong uptrend, 4 candles, but it's still got to break that $7.708 level on a close. They are having in Malaysia some, I think I saw they're having some more of the educational or intellectual experts coming in to tour the Malaysian factory. That's fine. I don't know what to take of that. So, um, but yeah, I'd look at a break there from a technical basis. Again, everything I'm saying is going to depend upon the overall market too. Okay. EOSE. USC, a couple things going on here. So they filed the S3 or Cerberus filed the S3, which means that they uh, filed the ability to sell their shares when their shares become free trading. Okay, so you know, and I don't want to go in too much as I'm going to be recording a thing with Mr. Greg Reyes, but uh, I'd say about 25 years I was involved in investment banking, and this issue came up all the time where people would freak out over just the simple filing of shares. And it's even dumber with Cerberus because why are you freaking out? They could have been up as high as what, 46, 44% ownership. They're 34, they're capped. They've removed what, 3 benchmarks already, 2 benchmarks. They've had the ability to, I mean, you know, anybody sitting there going, well, as soon as they, you know, become free trade, they're just going to sell those shares. I mean, could they? Yeah, it's always a possibility. And you know, an asteroid could hit us tomorrow too, but it's not likely. You know, it's not likely because they've had the. Why would they turn down additional ownership if they had the intent of selling their shares immediately? So anyway, I think it's nothing news. However, I will say that without any news, and maybe we'll get it this week, but we didn't get any additional news on EOSE. So without any additional news releases this week, technically it appears that the stock is trying to, all right, let's take a look here. There you are. It's trying to bottom, right? We had this huge big green candle, excuse me, and now we're trying to bottom and reverse. One thing, that I use, I don't typically use this um, volume indicator here. I put this on for a meeting with a one-on-one, but I use something called relative volume standard deviation. This day was a 6.6 standard deviation volume spike. That is might be actually, those happen as regularly statistically as getting a planet gets struck by an asteroid. Probably they're rare. So my point is that's a tremendous amount of volume. What do we do, about 38 million, 37 million in that one day? So the way I look at these is that it's unlikely that all this money that punched this up is going to let it fall all the way down and break below. Unlikely. It could happen, but it is unlikely. What's more likely is this happens. Okay? You sort of get a rolling smile recovery here. So I'm not concerned about EOSC. I'm looking to add back. My only decision is whether I add back if we get a reversal on Monday or I add back at a breakup here. Again, I've got to be very cognizant of the overall market. Um, the overall market and headlines and uh, possible peace deals and this and that. I mean, it is still going to be affected, let's say, by the overall market. Um, so I am cautious looking at a couple longs tomorrow. We've been looking at, I know some of the members have been looking at IREN as a Bitcoin miner, one of the better ones. I'll probably wait for a break up here to the top side. In fact, I won't probably, I will. But we got a small gap here. Maybe this is this break level. This is the break level. It's breaking. Okay. Maybe it comes back down, retests, then goes. Also, that's the point of control I set that at. So I'd much rather wait for that break. And then we have, let's see here. One more thing I wanted to check. Oh, keep an eye on your 10-year yields. Okay. So we're at on TOS is weird. You got to move the decimal, 4.375. You start here and you get up in that 4.5, 4.6 area, it will have a negative effect on the market. So yes, continue to watch the 10-year yields as they have been rising up from a pretty nice low in the 4% range. So just something to keep an eye on. Remember, as yields go up, if they start rising too much, money can leave the market if the rates are higher enough because it's guaranteed return for uh, a smaller return, but it's a guaranteed return. So, all right, this week what I think we're going to have is we're going to have news on the China deal. I don't think, irregardless, China sometime this week walks it back. That's what I think is going to happen. Number one. Number two, I think that if you start seeing more press releases about suspending habeas corpus, and it was somewhat on the talk shows this weekend, from what I understand, but if you see more and more, that means we're getting closer and closer to it happening. And that I think would be a down day for the market. I don't know if we close down, but I think it'd be a down day for the market. Excuse me, as it has to deal with the big, huge news. I don't know. I guess I'll stand with my prediction. If it is the Abraham Accords, I think that's a big sleeper. One of the things that I haven't been able to verify was over the weekend that I heard that Trump was talking about the two-state process or resolution for the Middle East. That might be the big news. And I did see well, actually, no, that was I think that was in humor. I saw a comment about establishing Gaza in France, in Western France. I can't imagine the French would be okay with that. So, also, additional political news was that Trump and Hegseth have for the time being, cut off communications with Netanyahu. I think that's brilliant. Do it. The less people, other countries we have affecting our policy, the better. We should do what's best for our country. Not in a vacuum, okay? But that should be our first goal. Ultimately, this market, I think, will remain choppy. I think it will take, if you get a trifecta of, if you get the trifecta of Ukraine peace, big, huge news, maybe it's Iran peace, okay? And China, yeah, the market's going to scream. I highly doubt that's going to happen. And anyway, looking at, the Goldman Sachs investor survey, I did want to go over this. I had one more thing to show you with EOSE. This was also out of Goldman Sachs, and they were talking about energy demand. Year to date, US power demand has increased by 5.5% year over year, okay? The average annual growth rate in the past decade has been 0.6. Goldman's position, or this gentleman's position, is that we are at the start of the hockey stick for the increase in demand. So, okay, let's see. Watching EOSE on the price chart here. I will look to get long if we put in a low close doji here, which would be a close above Friday's high. But I do want to see if these lows continue to drop, and if we do test this area, the $6 level again. The more we test it, the better before a reversal. So I am looking to add to that position. I have 2 scales on IBIT, my Bitcoin, 2 on UPRO. I've got 2 on EOSE Novembers, but I've already scaled once, I believe. All these positions have already scaled. So I will continue to look to scale and update the room, Discord room. Also, don't forget Monday, I start with any Discord member now will have access to my end of the day video audio updates. And then on this Wednesday, I'm going to go over what my overall vision is for my community and why I'm doing all of this. So all free. So you got to be a Discord member to sign up. But anyway, for you mothers, happy Mother's Day. And I think we're going to have a great week this week. So I will talk to you soon.
They ain't got no muscle, no hustle, no backbone. I stand alone, not tripping, just saying I'm different. Ain't hanging on to the coattails of the next man. Passport in my left hand, thinking that you are next. Heck, oh, you ain't holding your breath, man. Cause I'm out here, I'm hungry, I don't play around, trust me. Ain't had as much drive since my Honda Civic got rusty. And my girl said that she loved me. It's funny, just thinking back. Study hard for that 9 to 5, like I thought that I should be good with that. It was dreaming, still dreaming. Spotlight on me like Willie Beamen.